The senior technicians were packing their tools when Staff Sergeant Mike Chun slammed his wrench against the Blackhawk's engine, cowling one final time. 72 hours of diagnostics, part replacements, and system resets had yielded nothing but failure codes and the bitter taste of defeat. Tech Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez wiped hydraulic fluid from her hands and shook her head at the silent aircraft. This bird should have been back in the air yesterday, ferrying wounded Marines from the forward operating base to the trauma center. Instead, it sat like a $20 million paperweight in a maintenance hangar. The rotor blades drooped motionless overhead as Chun documented their final failure report. Every system check had come back negative. The engine turned over, but wouldn't achieve flight parameters. Something deep in the transmission was creating harmonic vibrations that made sustained flight impossible. Colonel Hayes had already called in civilian contractors from 3 different aerospace companies. Each team had arrived with confidence and left with excuses. The helicopter's hybrid digital-analog systems from the early 2000s created a diagnostic nightmare that even the manufacturer's specialists couldn't solve. Rodriguez sealed the last of her diagnostic equipment cases. 20 years of aircraft maintenance experience, and she had never seen a mechanical puzzle this stubborn. The maintenance logs showed similar issues plaguing other aircraft of this vintage, but none had proven this resistant to repair. Chun updated the grounding order in the computer system. Mission critical aircraft down indefinitely. The words felt like admitting failure to every wounded soldier waiting for evacuation. The tension in the hangar grew thicker as the old man continued his methodical examination of the Black Hawk's transmission housing. Chun and Rodriguez exchanged glances, both fighting the urge to intervene as he removed components they had already tested multiple times. His weathered hands moved with surgical precision, disconnecting sensors and hydraulic lines that had taken their team hours to access properly. The vintage multimeter he used looked ancient compared to their computerized diagnostic equipment, yet he seemed to trust it completely. Rodriguez stepped closer, unable to contain her technical curiosity. The way he isolated each system suggested an understanding of helicopter mechanics that went far beyond standard maintenance protocols. He was tracing electrical pathways that didn't appear in any current technical manual. Chun watched the old man's tool selection with growing fascination. Each instrument came from a different era of aircraft maintenance, some bearing manufacturer stamps from companies that no longer existed. The precision tools showed decades of careful use and meticulous care. The hangar's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as the veteran worked in complete silence. His systematic approach revealed intimate knowledge of component interactions that even the manufacturer specialists had overlooked during their failed repair attempts. Other maintenance personnel began gathering at a respectful distance, drawn by curiosity about the outsider who had walked into their professional domain. Word was spreading through the base that someone new was attempting what their best technicians couldn't accomplish. The helicopter's complex systems seemed to respond differently to his touch, as if recognizing an old friend. The radio crackled to life across the hangar, shattering the focused silence. Forward operating base Delta, calling for immediate medevac. 3 Marines down with critical injuries from an IED blast. Time factor critical. Colonel Hayes burst through the hangar doors, his face grim with urgency. We need that bird in the air in 30 minutes or we lose them. The trauma center can't wait any longer for ground transport through hostile territory. Chun felt his stomach drop. The backup helicopters were already committed to other missions. This Black Hawk was their only available medevac platform, and it remained stubbornly grounded despite every repair attempt. The old veteran didn't look up from his work, but his hands moved faster, dismantling the transmission's upper housing with increasing urgency. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he accessed components buried deep within the aircraft's mechanical heart. Rodriguez watched the mission clock on the hangar wall tick away precious minutes. Every second that passed meant less chance of survival for the wounded Marines waiting in that forward position. The weight of 3 lives pressed down on everyone in the hangar. Medical personnel were already prepping equipment for the medevac run, their stretchers and trauma kits arranged near the helicopter pad. Flight crew members stood by their gear, ready to launch the moment the aircraft became operational. The veterans' weathered fingers probed deeper into the mechanical maze, following instincts developed through decades of keeping aircraft flying when lives depended on it. His movements carried the desperate precision of someone who understood exactly what failure meant. Rodriguez noticed how the veteran's hands moved through the transmission components like he was reading Braille. His fingers traced wiring harnesses and hydraulic connections with the familiarity of someone who had rebuilt these systems in complete darkness under enemy fire. The way he identified the harmonic resonance problem suggested experience with combat damage patterns that went far beyond peacetime maintenance. His diagnostic approach targeted failure points that only emerged under extreme operational stress, the kind of mechanical trauma that happened when helicopters pushed beyond normal flight parameters. Chen observed the old man's tool technique more carefully. The precision instruments weren't just vintage, they were combat-modified versions designed for field repairs under impossible conditions. Some bore scratch marks and dents that told stories of maintenance performed while mortar rounds exploded nearby. His systematic troubleshooting revealed knowledge of helicopter vulnerabilities that weren't documented in any current technical manual. The veteran understood how dust, heat, and combat stress affected mechanical systems in ways that textbook training never covered. The hangar grew quiet except for the sound of precision instruments probing deep into the aircraft's mechanical systems. Other maintenance personnel watched with growing respect as the old man's expertise became undeniable. Colonel Hayes checked his watch and paced near the radio, torn between hope and desperation. The wounded Marines couldn't wait much longer, but this forgotten contractor was their last chance of getting the Black Hawk operational before it was too late for the soldiers bleeding out at the forward operating base. The veteran's hands disappeared into the transmission housing as he began the most critical phase of the repair. Chun and Rodriguez watched in stunned silence as he dismantled the complex rotor assembly system that had defeated every previous repair attempt. His movements accelerated into a blur of mechanical precision. Components that had taken their team hours to access were removed and rebuilt in minutes. The intricate balance mechanisms that controlled rotor blade harmonics were adjusted with microscopic precision using techniques that seemed impossible. Rodriguez realized she was witnessing master-level craftsmanship that transcended normal maintenance protocols. The old man wasn't just fixing the helicopter, he was rebuilding it to specifications that exceeded factory standards. Each component was tested, calibrated, and reinstalled with surgical accuracy. The transmission's internal mechanisms began responding to his touch like a musical instrument being tuned by a virtuoso. Harmonic vibrations that had plagued the system for weeks disappeared as he realigned components with mathematical precision. Chen watched the diagnostic readouts change in real time as the veteran's repairs took effect. System parameters that had shown red warning codes for days suddenly shifted into green operational ranges. The mechanical symphony of a properly functioning transmission began emerging from the engine compartment. 20 minutes remaining on the mission clock, and the impossible was happening. The Black Hawk's heart was beating again under the skilled hands of someone who understood helicopter mechanics at a level that bordered on artistic mastery. The Black Hawk systems came online like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. First, the hydraulic pressure stabilized, then the electrical systems cleared their fault codes, and finally the transmission harmonics settled into smooth operational parameters. Rodriguez stared at her diagnostic tablet in disbelief. Every system that had shown critical failures for 3 days was now displaying green status indicators. The cascading mechanical problems that had stumped 3 contractor teams were resolving themselves under the veteran's methodical repairs. The old man's expertise proved far beyond anything their technical training had prepared them for. He was simultaneously addressing multiple system failures that the manufacturers had insisted required complete component replacement. His field repair techniques were accomplishing what factory specialists claimed was impossible. Chun watched the engine parameters climb steadily toward flight-ready specifications. Oil pressure perfect, temperature within normal ranges, vibration levels dropping to acceptable limits. The veteran had solved mechanical puzzles that had defeated computer diagnostics and engineering analysis. The helicopter's turbine engines spooled up with the smooth whine of properly functioning machinery. No stuttering, no harmonic vibrations, no warning alarms. The complex symphony of a healthy Black Hawk filled the hangar for the first time in over a week. Flight crew members rushed toward their aircraft as system after system confirmed operational status. Medical personnel grabbed their equipment and headed for the helicopter pad. The impossible medevac mission was about to become reality through one man's extraordinary mechanical mastery. Colonel Hayes approached the veteran as he packed his vintage tools with methodical precision. "I need to know who you are. That level of expertise doesn't come from civilian maintenance training." The old man straightened slowly, wiping hydraulic fluid from his hands with a worn rag. "Master Sergeant William Thompson, retired. 30th Maintenance Company, 1st Cavalry Division. I kept birds flying in Vietnam when spare parts were myths and field repairs meant the difference between rescue and body bags." Rodriguez felt her breath catch. The legendary helicopter maintenance unit that had achieved impossible operational readiness rates during the worst years of combat. Stories about their field repair capabilities had become maintenance folklore, passed down through generations of aircraft technicians. Chun recognized the name from maintenance training history. Thompson's unit had maintained helicopter fleets under conditions that should have grounded every aircraft permanently. They had developed field repair techniques that were still studied in advanced maintenance schools decades later. The veterans' combat-modified tools suddenly made perfect sense. These were instruments forged in the crucible of warfare, designed to keep aircraft operational when conventional maintenance was impossible. His diagnostic approach reflected knowledge earned through years of keeping soldiers alive by keeping helicopters flying. Colonel Hayes stood at attention and rendered a sharp salute. "Master Sergeant Thompson, on behalf of the wounded Marines you just saved, thank you for your service." Both past and present. The hangar fell silent as everyone absorbed the revelation of who had been working among them. The Black Hawk's rotors began their pre-flight spin-up, generating the familiar whop-hop-hop that signaled operational readiness. Thompson watched with quiet satisfaction as his repairs proved themselves under the stress of actual flight preparation. Chief Warrant Officer Martinez completed his pre-flight inspection with growing amazement. Every system parameter was not just functional, but optimized beyond factory specifications. The transmission that had been a maintenance nightmare now operated with precision that exceeded brand-new aircraft standards. Rodriguez approached Thompson with genuine reverence. "Master Sergeant, your field repair techniques just accomplished what 3 contractor teams said was impossible. Would you be willing to share some of your knowledge with our maintenance crews?" The veteran's weathered face showed the first hint of a smile. "Young lady, I spent 40 years learning that helicopters are living machines. They respond to respect, patience, and understanding of their mechanical souls. Your computer diagnostics can tell you what's broken, but only experience can tell you how to truly fix it." Chun documented the successful repair in the maintenance logs, noting that Master Sergeant Thompson had resolved multiple cascading system failures using field maintenance techniques developed during combat operations. His entry would become part of the aircraft's permanent service record. The helicopter lifted off the pad with medical personnel aboard, heading toward the forward operating base where wounded Marines waited. Thompson's expertise had transformed a grounded aircraft into a life-saving mission platform through mechanical mastery that bridged decades of aviation technology. The medevac mission returned 40 minutes later with all 3 Marines stabilized and en route to the trauma center. Chief Martinez reported flawless aircraft performance throughout the emergency flight, with transmission parameters remaining perfectly stable even under maximum operational stress. Word of Thompson's achievement spread rapidly through the base maintenance community. Senior technicians from other hangars arrived to examine his repair work and understand the field techniques that had accomplished the impossible. His methodical approach became an impromptu masterclass in advanced helicopter maintenance. Rodriguez organized her team around Thompson as he explained the diagnostic philosophy behind his success. "Listen to the machine," he told them. "Modern computers can identify problems, but they can't understand the mechanical relationships that create solutions. Every helicopter has its own personality developed through years of service." Chun documented Thompson's repair procedures for inclusion in the base maintenance manual. The techniques would be studied and adapted for modern diagnostic equipment, bridging the gap between old-school mechanical intuition and contemporary maintenance protocols. Colonel Hayes returned to personally thank Thompson for saving the mission and the lives of 3 Marines. "Your expertise turned what could have been a tragedy into a successful rescue operation. The base needs someone with your skills permanently." Thompson closed his weathered tool case and looked around the hangar filled with respectful faces. 40 years ago, people said field repairs couldn't match factory standards. Today proved that experience and dedication can accomplish what technology alone cannot. 6 months later, Master Sergeant Thompson's repair techniques had become standard protocol throughout the base maintenance operations. His field maintenance manual was distributed to helicopter units across 3 combat theaters, saving countless aircraft that would have otherwise been declared total losses. The Black Hawk he had repaired continued flying flawless missions, its transmission performing better than factory specifications. Maintenance crews referred to it as Thompson's Bird, and it became a symbol of what expertise and dedication could accomplish when conventional methods failed. Rodriguez earned promotion to Master Sergeant herself, applying Thompson's diagnostic philosophy to train the next generation of helicopter technicians. His approach of understanding aircraft as living machines revolutionized her maintenance methodology and dramatically improved her team's success rates. Chun documented 14 additional successful repairs using Thompson's techniques, establishing himself as one of the base's most capable maintenance specialists. The forgotten veteran's knowledge had transformed multiple careers and saved dozens of aircraft from premature retirement. Thompson accepted a permanent position as senior maintenance advisor, his weathered hands still working magic on aircraft that stumped younger technicians. His tool case remained a shrine to field maintenance excellence, inspiring mechanics who had never experienced combat to achieve impossible repairs through patience and understanding. The legend of the forgotten veteran who saved 3 Marines and revolutionized helicopter maintenance spread throughout the military aviation community, proving that true expertise never truly retires. Have you ever witnessed someone whose hidden skills completely transformed an impossible situation? Share your story in the comments below. An old man in civilian clothes walked through the hangar doors, carrying a battered leather tool case that looked older than most of the aircraft. Chun barely glanced up from his paperwork as the stranger approached the grounded Black Hawk with slow, measured steps. Rodriguez noticed the newcomer's weathered hands examining the helicopter's exterior with practiced eyes. Just another contractor, she thought, probably here to confirm what everyone already knew. This bird was beyond repair using conventional maintenance methods. The old man set down his vintage tool case and began unpacking instruments that belonged in a museum rather than a modern maintenance facility. His multimeter had analog dials, his wrenches bore the patina of decades of use, and his diagnostic equipment looked like it predated computer-controlled aircraft systems. Chun shook his head and returned to documenting their failure report. 3 contractor teams had already declared the helicopter unfixable. This elderly civilian with his antique tools wasn't going to accomplish what aerospace engineers couldn't manage with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment. The hangar's silence was broken by the sound of boots on concrete as Colonel Hayes approached the aircraft. Rodriguez looked up, surprised to see the base commander personally overseeing what appeared to be routine contractor work. The colonel stopped beside the old man and spoke quietly. "Master Sergeant Thompson, thank you for coming. We specifically requested you because conventional repair methods have failed completely." Chen's pen stopped moving across the failure report as the implications hit him. This wasn't just another contractor. Thompson approached the Black Hawk's engine compartment with the confidence of someone who had seen every possible helicopter malfunction. His weathered fingers traced the aircraft's exterior panels, reading mechanical stories written in scratches or patterns and stress marks that younger technicians had never learned to interpret. Rodriguez watched skeptically as the old man began his systematic examination using diagnostic techniques that seemed primitive compared to their computer-controlled equipment. His analog instruments and manual testing procedures belonged to an earlier era of aircraft maintenance when mechanics relied on experience rather than digital readouts. Chen observed Thompson's methodical approach with growing curiosity. The veteran's diagnostic sequence didn't follow current maintenance protocols, yet his systematic examination revealed intimate knowledge of helicopter systems that went deeper than textbook training. The old man's hands moved through the aircraft's mechanical components with surgical precision, identifying connection points and system relationships that their team had overlooked during 72 hours of failed repair attempts. His understanding of helicopter architecture seemed to transcend conventional maintenance knowledge. Thompson's vintage multimeter began revealing electrical anomalies that their advanced diagnostic computers had missed completely. His analog instruments detected harmonic variations and voltage fluctuations that digital equipment couldn't isolate among the complex electromagnetic signatures of modern avionics systems. The systematic nature of his examination suggested decades of experience troubleshooting mechanical failures under conditions where repair manuals were useless and spare parts were non-existent. His diagnostic approach targeted failure modes that only emerged during extreme operational stress.